So imagine for a second that this painting by Vermeer didn't have a figure. I think it would still be a beautiful painting, partly because he's a master of light, partly because there's a lovely composition, and we can't help but feel that quiet, intimate space that the painting creates. But then he doesn't stop there. There's a story. So we don't know what that story is exactly, but we can read into it. What's clear is that there's this very intense moment. So remember the book we were reading from last week, Art as Therapy, and Alain de Botton talks about this, and he says that Vermeer had a lot of ways to paint her, but he chose this particular moment. And that by creating an atmosphere of intense stillness, he conveys her capacity for absorption. I think that's quite interesting. I mean, such an intimate painting. If there were anything sort of distracting in the painting, then there would be no way for us to really feel that sense of concentration and absorption, right? There's no part of her that isn't fully engaged with whatever she's reading. And we can see it the way she kind of tightly grips the paper. We notice there's also 2 chairs, and there's only one subject. So could this be a letter from her husband, who she's eagerly awaiting news from? Could she be pregnant? Or is this just a cold house and a thick skirt that's creating a bump? We don't know, but I love the fact that it's so open-ended. But that experience is something we've all felt. Think of a moment when you were completely absorbed by what was happening. Nothing else existed. For better or worse, if that was good news or bad news, the world stands still. So Vermeer has this magical ability to paint something which is very personal and specific, and yet at the same time against a backdrop of something a little more timeless. Botton reminds us that art is a way of preserving experiences that are hard to hold on to. And you remember from the last video, the quote we read, we might describe a good work of art as a picture that can foreground the elements that are valuable but hard to hold on to. It pins down the core of significance, while its counterpart, although reminding us of something, lets an essence slip away. And he calls it an empty souvenir, right? And this painting is the exact opposite. It gets something so subtle and so delicate. He has this magical ability to capture an evanescent moment. It has that ability to remind us of those moments in our own lives that really stood out. That's the potential of art, right? At its best, it helps us remember what's worth remembering. This painting was the subject for my long post painting class this month. To call it an old master copy is to kind of miss what it's really about. There's something about when you're trying to recreate the textures and the atmosphere of the original that sort of brings you into the same space. And so you can't help but also start to feel that sense of intense quiet and intimacy. So, these master copies are more like meditations or a discussion maybe than they are like copying something that's dead. So next month we are creating our own compositions based on one of Vermeer's paintings. What are the elements that really come through? There's a moment, an important moment. There's a setting with foreground, midground, background, and there's a subject. And that could be someone we know, someone we don't know. It doesn't really matter. The story is the important thing. But we're going to have a bit of fun composing and painting our own paintings next month. If that sounds interesting, check out the links in my bio and send me any questions that you have. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.